Hey. All right. I know, man, this day has flown by. Am I the only one that this day has flown? It's just such good stuff. Time flies when you're getting filled up. My name is Glenn Shirley. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. It is so good to be here. I will say this. I know when Andy, and thank you, Andy, for asking me to speak and be part of this amazing day. Some of my heroes are on this panel. But what he first said, it was Glenn H. Because my professional career, I have a stage name or whatever, broadcast name. But my real name is Glenn Shirley, and you can call me Shirley. Yes, you can. As long as they're not on the TV or the radio or in the paper talking about AA, you can call me Shirley. My sobriety date is May 10th of 2001, and it's my original sobriety date by the grace of God. And the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and the men and women that carried this message to me and told me that I could live free of alcohol and other substances. And I got to tell you, that's been kind of the theme. I've been here since 9:30 this morning. That's the theme of our book, and it's truly been the theme of the day. Freedom. How free do you want to be? God. This stuff is real, y'all. I mean, I'm not going to get into it. I'm going to be quick. I'm going to be done in about 30 minutes. Watch. We'll be in and out of here. But, this is a guy... I couldn't imagine my life without alcohol. Drinking and other stuff was a part of my life. It was a part of my core. And I'll never forget, I'll just tell you a little quick bit about my story, just to qualify myself a little bit. First time I ever drank intentionally, I was 10 years old, and I drank to black out and throwing up. I was a puker. We got any pukers? I know we took a show of hands earlier. Any pants pissers? Yeah, I didn't do that, but I wasn't that bad of an alcoholic. Let's be real. No, that was, I'm sure, a yet for me. I don't know. I just was blessed with a different bladder. I don't know, but I drank intentionally for the first time at 10, and I got really sick, and I swore I would never do that again. And I was like, I don't want to feel that way. As good as it made me feel, like as soon as I took that first drink, I got rocketed to a dimension. I didn't know it was the fourth dimension, but it was the dimension that I felt like I belonged with y'all, and I could talk to you guys, and I felt normal. That same year, when I was 10 years old, so we used to get together at this park, and I grew up in Texas. And my friend Bo brought us a bunch of, stole his dad's chewing tobacco, Levi Garrett. And we all took a bit of the chew and put it in our mouths. And I didn't realize you were supposed to spit it and not swallow it. I learned the hard way. And so I turned, 3 shades of green and puked straight up. And I swore to God that day I was never going to chew tobacco ever again. And I'll give you one guess as to which one of those promises stuck. Yeah, I've never chewed tobacco since then. It didn't quite have the same effect that alcohol produced for me. And when I got to be about 15, that's when I remembered and decided, I would start to try that again. And alcohol worked for me for a long time. It did. I enjoyed drinking. I'm not going to lie to you guys. From the very get-go, I loved how alcohol made me feel. I had a lot of fun drinking and doing other stuff. And alcohol worked for me for a long time until it didn't, until it turned on me, like the boomerang, and cut me to shreds. I'm not going to stay on my story of how I got here, but, I failed marriage, wrecked plenty of vehicles, swore off it many times. Well, I didn't swear off it. I just didn't ever want to drink like that anymore. There's a line in the very beginning of We Agnostics, and it's probably my favorite line. It's the line that qualified me and made me believe that I'm really an alcoholic. If, when you honestly want to, you feel you cannot quit entirely, eighth of an inch, or if when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take. probably alcoholic. Well, see, the first part of that question, I never really wanted to stop entirely. Like, that never crossed my mind. And it wasn't until, I'm going to say, within the last year or so that I've come to the realization of how insane that is. That it never crossed my mind to stop entirely. I just wanted to stop up, having horrible consequences, hurting people, wrecking cars, almost killing people. It was the second part. When drinking, I had little control over the amount I took. Could I tell you how much I was going to drink every time? And the answer is absolutely no. So I'm grateful that when I finally did reach out for help, because that's all I wanted was help with my drinking. I just wanted to not drink as much. So I went to this treatment center in Texas. Now, I've been in broadcasting since I was 14 years old. I started when I was in Texas, but I've been at this same radio station in Harrisburg since 1992, since I was 24. And they saw me through everything, good, bad, and different, and I'm still there today. And I'll talk to you about that in my 10th step here in a little bit. But when I finally raised my hand, my dad, I come from a long line of alcoholics. My dad was the only one that got sober in my family. And God bless him. He got sober when I was 16, and he died with 34 years of sobriety in 2020. And I actually got to be with him when he passed in 2020 in Texas in the hospital room during COVID. That's a miracle, and I don't take that for granted. And I didn't have any unfinished amends with him. We had a great relationship, and we got to walk this path together. He was my father, he was my brother, and he was my friend, and he helped show me the way to this. And when I reached my hand up for help, he worked at this treatment center out in Texas, this little tiny town in Texas, and got me out there. And again, I was just going to try to get the heat off and not drink so much. And I didn't know what I was up against until I was there for about 3 days. And after detoxing, got out of a little special care unit. And these guys are like, have you guys heard of, have you met Chris yet? And I'm like, no, I don't know anybody here or anything. They had given me a big book and a 12 and 12. That's what they gave me when I got on campus. I didn't know what they were. I'd never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I was completely naive to what recovery was. I still thought I was just going to learn how to drink at this point. And they were like, oh, wait do you meet Chris? I was okay. Can't wait. Sounds like a, great guy. So they got an hour with us. He got an hour with us 4 days a week at 9 o'clock, big book. And he opened up the big book. We had to bring our books, and he said, turn to the Roman numerals. And he started explaining what alcoholism was in that first step through the doctor's opinion. And for 4 days in a row, I got to hear, he gave me my case of alcoholism for the first time through his experience and showing me that I am an alcoholic. And if I believe that I'm an alcoholic, I'm suffering from a condition that only a spiritual awakening would conquer. I was super relieved. Light bulbs were going off left and right. Oh my God, this answers all the questions as to why I drank the way I did. For the first time, I looked at my truth based on my experience around my drinking. But then I was terrified because y'all were talking about spiritual experiences and spiritual awakenings and God and all that stuff. And I was terrified. I had a great relationship with God when I was a kid. I went to church. I went to Sunday school. Heck, my parents were married and divorced from each other twice. So you can't say they didn't try. They tried as hard as they could. But one of those times I joined a church on my own. I rode my bicycle down to the Methodist church, joined a church. I was on fire for God until I was about 15 and started drinking and started doing all this other stuff that I knew that God didn't want me to live this kind of a way of life. So I started, Irish goodbye or whatever from God. I was like, see, I'm going to go over here, God. You take care of all this stuff. I'll let you know when I need you. Like if I get in trouble or if the heat gets too bad, I'll call on you for a foxhole prayer. So they started talking to me about spiritual terms that I could understand. And one of the biggest things that I learned, and treatment gets a bad rap, and I guess I understand, but I happened to go to a really good one. I went to a very good, big book based, experiential type of a facility. And that one of the best things that they told me while I was in there is that what I did while I was there was not going to keep me sober. It's what I did when I walk off that campus. I didn't have 20 minutes to screw around. I needed to. They had me almost finished with a 4th step in 30 days. And y'all, I'm completely naive. I didn't know that people didn't work the steps. I'm just like, okay, I'll write this. Oh my God, and my mind is blown. I'm a selfish, dishonest son of a bitch. Oh my God, this is crazy. This is awesome. I'm like on fire for this stuff. And they're like, well, when you get out, you're going to need to finish the steps, get you a sponsor and a home group and all of this stuff. And they kind of told me what to watch out for. They told me to ask the questions when I'm looking for a sponsor. Have you had a spiritual awakening as the result of the steps? Are you continuing to work the steps? And I felt really stupid asking those questions. But you wouldn't believe how many people I asked that question when I got out and got sideways looks when I came back to Pennsylvania. Not busting on Pennsylvania. That was kind of the fellowship. They were like, you've got 30 days and you're going a little too fast. You ought to pump the brakes a little bit because the man that's my sponsor now couldn't be my sponsor at the beginning. I had to have 2 years outside of that facility before he could. But the man that did sponsor me at that time and finally said, yeah, let's go talk about what you're doing. He saved my life. That was Bob Sharkey, rest his soul. Buckskin Bob. And he heard my 5th step. We got into 6 and 7. I've had some great teachers. I got to go to, I was on fire for AA and recovery when I got out of treatment. I read all I could about the history and Dr. Bob and the good old timers. And I went to conferences and I went out of town, like to the Fellowship of the Spirit in New York. And I got to meet Mark and Joe and people that are my heroes. I believe lineage is really important. I got through this stuff, made amends. I don't have any unfinished amends. And that brings us, we hear the 9th step promises all the time. Most meetings read those 9th step promises. There are promises littered throughout the big book, promises and warnings. My favorite personal promises are the 10th step promises, because when I was about 2 weeks sober, that's when I heard the 10th step promises. And they pulled me with this vision more than the 9th step promises did. The 9th step promise, I was like, great, I want to know how the hell I'm going to not drink and be happy about it like you weirdos are. I wanted to know, how am I going to enjoy my life not drinking? I went into the bookstore 2 weeks sober, and I said to Chris, I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do, because I'm a musician. Also, I used to play in the clubs. My job involved being around alcohol. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, man. I'm not going to be able to do anything. I'm not going to know how to do anything. And he looked up because he had been, looking down like this, and he looked at me with his one good eye, and he said, that's a lie. He said, if you do this, you're going to be able to go anywhere and do anything that you want to do. He said, Ted, go back to your room and read page 85. So I'm down at the bottom of 84 and 85, and it says, and we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol, for by this time sanity will have returned. Sanity, they talked about it. I've been restored to sanity. The most insane thing I can do is take a drink when I'm sober after a period of time, knowing what I know about my drinking. We will seldom be interested in liquor. If tempted, we recoil from it as from a hot flame. We react sanely and normally, and we will find that this has happened automatically. We will see that our new attitude toward liquor has been given us without any thought or effort on our part. It just comes. Now, that can be misleading. That's talking about in the moment when I'm around alcohol. There's been a lot of groundwork that's been laid, and I've done a lot of stuff and, done inventory and made amends and making amends. What they mean is when I'm confronted with alcohol or I'm around it or in its presence, I'm not sitting there fighting it or running away. It's like I've literally been placed in a position of neutrality, safe and protected. I'm not even swearing off. Instead, the problem has been removed. It does not exist for us. And I'm not cocky about that, nor am I afraid. That has been my experience, and that's how we react, so long as we keep in fit spiritual condition. Now, those are the promises based on staying in fit spiritual condition. And step 10 suggests that we continue to take personal inventory, continue to set right any new mistakes as they crop up. This is the immediately step. I know there can be some confusion sometimes because I was confused at the first. I thought the 10th step, you do that at night. And the 11th step, you do that all through the day. And it's crazy how this stuff they write down in this book, it was right here the whole time. I don't know how I missed that. I know the 12 and 12 can talk about, your nightly checks and balances. But this is for right now. This is the immediately step. It says, I've entered the world of the Spirit. My next function is to grow in understanding and effectiveness. Oh, God, it's not an overnight matter. I don't work the steps once, and I'm completely done. I don't ever have to look at this stuff again. Good to go. That's not what the book says, and that's not been my experience. It says that it should continue for our lifetime. So I need to continue, basically, to practice a microcosm 4 through 9. That's how it was explained to me. I need to continue to watch for selfish dishonesty, resentment, and fear. If these crop up, when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. We discuss them with someone immediately. We make amends quickly if we've harmed anyone. And this is so important, the turn. And then we resolutely turn our thoughts to someone we can help. Love and tolerance of others is our code. God, it's tough to talk about this in 30 minutes. It's just this is life-changing stuff. This means, I know it's hard for an alcoholic to say this word, but step 10 means I'm going to be wrong. A lot. And I got to... And the more I'm sober, the quicker I know that I'm wrong, and that kind of pisses me off too. I'll give you a real quick example of a tense. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was at Costco. Has anybody ever gotten gas at Costco? I'm in Costco at the line, and there's a tanker over here refilling it. And so I move up, and I'm 2 back, and they need to get the tanker through so it can get out of the Costco and go on its merry way. So the guy stops me, and then he finally has me pull up, but he only has me pull up to the first pump, so there's a space in front of me that he didn't want anybody to get to, so I'm fine. So I get down, I'm pumping my gas. This guy runs around me after he moves the cone and gets up there, and he looks at me, and of course, I'm just deathly afraid of what others think of me and are judging me, and he probably think I didn't move up into that space, and what's wrong with me? So he's looking at me the whole time, and he's pumping. Now, I can't get out now that I'm done pumping the gas. Doesn't he know who I think I am? For crying out loud. So finally, I'm just sitting there for like 5 more minutes while he's pumping his gas, and I just start getting my teeth are grinding. That's always a bad sign if my teeth are grinding. And the next thing you know, I yell out. I'm not going to say it here. It's being recorded, right? I yell out, "You bitch better!" And I thought, it's between me and the car. I'm, safe and protected because I'm really a stupid coward, and I would never say that to his face. However, I look over, and my window is down about that far, and it's not the guy. I care less about the guy. There was a woman right over there at the next pump pumping, and I know that she heard me yell that expletive out, and I felt horrible about it. But it was time for me to go because I was holding up the line. So I left, but I called my sponsor immediately because I knew that something's off if I'm reacting to life that way. I call him up, voicemail. I have a group of guys, immediately guys. If my sponsor's not at my beck and call. If I can't get it, he's always there usually. But if I can't get a hold of him, then I have other guys in my life that I'm accountable to. Accountability, transparency, that's what the 10th step is for me. I've got to stay honest. So I call the next guy, voicemail. And I'm leaving these voicemails. Hey, I got a 10th step something. Give me a call back. Hey, I got a 10th step. Call me back if you get a chance. And finally, the 4th guy I get a hold of, he hears me, and I get to tell him what happened, and we talk it. He asked if I'd prayed about it, and I actually said, yes, I had talked to God about this already. Usually I don't. I usually make the call first, and then I have to be reminded to involve God, because I'm so caught up in self. So I discuss it with them, and then I realize there's no way I'm going to go back and be able to make amends to the guy or the woman. I just, I pray every day that I will have a better reaction to life, that I need to behave better, and when these do crop up, I need to be clear with somebody. Now, I'll warn you, if you have immediately, guys, and you don't want to talk about it over and over, when you leave the message, don't say, hey, I have to 10th step. Because if you do, everybody's going to call you back and say, what do you got to do? And I got to tell it again and again and again. But I got to tell you, I'm kidding, because there's also power in that too. It's like doing multiple 5th steps. It's from people that I trust and I know are on this page. I get to hear them too, and it's amazing to hear how when we're all on the same page, everybody's got the same solution and the same answer. But it just makes me more transparent to other guys. By the way, that happened in November of this year. And then this one happened last week. And this one I did not get to in a 10th step. This made my nightly inventory. I was at work, and I have a new boss that's ahead of me, and I have my headphones on, and I was recording something, and he comes in at like 8:30 in the morning. He comes in, it's kind of dark, and he comes in, and I don't see him at first, and he's waving at me, and I don't see him, and finally I look over, and I'm like, I jump, and I'm scared, and I'm like, what are you doing? And like I give him the, what are you doing in here? Because I fear, literal fear, and I get scared. And he's like, do you smell the gas that's coming in from the... I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, well, there's a diesel leak out in the parking lot, and it's coming into the building, so you might want to come outside and get some fresh air. So I was like, oh, man, absolutely. Thank you. I'm sorry. And I go out there. Didn't think for a second to talk to anybody about that at that moment, because it happened so fast. Man, these things can happen so fast. And I'm just not always walking right tight on that spiritual beam. So, because it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action and rest on our laurels. I'm headed for trouble if I do. Alcohol's a subtle foe. I'm not cured of alcoholism. What I really have is a daily reprieve contingent on the maintenance of my spiritual condition. Every day is a day when I must carry the vision of God's will into all my activities. Work, occupations, affairs, my marriage, my friendships. How can I best serve thee? That's a quote. That's a prayer. How can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. And these are thoughts which must go with us constantly. We can exercise our willpower along this line all we wish. It is the proper use of the will. So that didn't catch me in that day, during the day. But in step 11, that's when I retire at night. I do my nightly inventory. And that's when I can catch stuff that I didn't catch during the day. Things that I might have minimized or forgotten about because it gets so busy. When I retire at night, I constructively review my day. And this is not being judgmental. This is my experience. I find that this part of the steps is probably one of the least regularly practiced. I know I've gone periods of time in my sobriety without doing it regularly. Guys, I have an app. I have an app for it now. And I don't care. I used to be a stickler about, I got to write it on pen and paper. And you know what? I need all the help I can get, y'all. I will use every tool at my disposal. I still love to put pen to paper. But if it means that I'm going to do my nightly inventory every night, I'm getting that app out. And I'm going to answer these 10 questions that I have every night. And someday, because we think this is some arduous, long, horrible, I got to go to bed an hour before I go to sleep and take inventory. No, dude, guys, on a regular day, it takes me a minute or 2 minutes to consider these questions on most days, because I do carry God's will into my life on a regular basis. I just happen to be human, and my defects of character continue to wreak havoc on my life and others. So I answer these 10 questions. Was I resentful? Was I selfish? Was I dishonest? Was I afraid? Do I owe an apology? Yes. Yeah, I was afraid. Hey, he was my new boss. I'm afraid I'll look bad. I don't want to look bad to my boss. I also have a resentment for him because I was offered his job 2 years ago and turned it down because I knew it was going to be for more money, for no more money and a lot more work, because that's the way my company rolls. That's not judgmental, but it's the fact. But it's also judgmental. So I have some resentment there that he took the job that I could have had. You know, my troubles are of my own making. Imagine that. Do I owe an apology? Yes, I absolutely owe that man an apology. He was only trying to save my life. Have I kept something to myself which I should have discussed with someone at once? Yeah, you know, that was a definite 10th step right there that was waiting to happen. You know, it was ripe for the picking, but I didn't. Was I kind and loving toward all? No, I treated that man horribly. What could I have done better? Oh, hi, Mike. Hey, what's going on, buddy? Oh, there's a gas leak? Hey, thanks for trying to save my life. That might have been a better response than, hey, what are you doing in here? Or was I thinking of what I could do? Was I thinking of myself most of the time? Or was I thinking of what I could do for others, of what I could pack into the stream of life? I have to tell you really fast, as an only child and an alcoholic, I am extra selfish and self-centered. The struggle is real, but I got to tell you, I have a hard time answering that question no when it says, was I thinking of myself most of the time? Because if I'm honest, yeah, even when I'm trying to be good and stuff and do stuff for other people, there's something back there where through the day, I do. I think of myself most of the time. But I think those two things can happen together. My experience, I also think of what I can do for others and what I can pack into the stream of life. I don't know. I'm going to be practicing it for the rest of my life, so I'll let you know if I figure out the answer to that one. But it's stuff that I'm going to continue to practice. Now, they give me that inventory first for when I retire at night, so that when I get up on awakening on page 86, I think about the 24 hours ahead and I consider my plans for the day. Before we begin, I ask God to direct my thinking and ask that it be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, or self-seeking motives. I've got my little inventory from the night before with me also that I can carry into this quiet time. I'm not going to read this whole page, 86, 87, and 88. I don't want to stand up here and read the big book to you. All I can tell you is this is the only step that I worked out of order. I was given, within a week, I was told, and I didn't even know what it meant. I was told to read 86, 87, and 88 every morning when I woke up. They didn't even tell me about the when I retire at night part. They knew I don't know how to take inventory, and I'm not going to be honest yet. But they knew that on awakening, I could read these and follow these directions, and that would be a good way for me to start to make contact with my higher power. So I've been doing this on awakening since I got sober. Does it look different in my life today than it did when I first got sober? Absolutely it does. Oh my gosh, there's so much in this. And I've had like 11-step buddies where I wake up in the morning and we get on the phone and we pray to each other and we read our inventory from the night before. And I've gone through seasons of that and seasons where I don't do that. And there's another bit in where we talks about the different books. There are many helpful books. Suggestions about these may be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. This line changed my life. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Ooh, that just grinded me when I first got here. But it was pointed out to me that says, be quick to see where religious people are right. I didn't read it that way. I read it to say, be quick to see that religious people are right. And that was what I had a problem with for like 20 years since I've been running for God. And they said, no, dude, it says be quick to see where religious people are right. What's working for them? Make use of what they offer. Guys, I joined a church about 1.5 years sober, and I've been a member of that church for a while. You don't have to do that, but I tell you what, going back to that part of my faith walk has been freeing. And it's a lot different than it was back then, too. I'm just letting you know that's been a huge part of my recovery. And so many books that people have recommended to me. I've had 2 good ones recommended to me today. But some of the ones that have helped me with this prayer meditation time, in addition to the big book, have been, it's a book called God Calling. It's by the two sisters. They used it in early AA. It's amazing. And it's crazy how it lines up with the 24-hour a day book. I believe they used that book. But anyway, another one is My Utmost for His Highest by Oswald Chambers. I love that. I've done Sermon on the Mount by Emmett Fox is another great one. Around the Year with Emmett Fox is a great one. I mean, it's just, I was told to go on my journey. What do these spiritual terms mean to me? What does a relationship with God mean to me? Not what somebody else has been talking to me about. And what am I doing on a daily basis to grow closer to that power that's given me all these blessings today? I used to look at God real fast. Some people use a Santa Claus analogy for God. You know, I just did wish for things, and if he didn't give me what I wanted, then there must not be really a God. But I look at a vending machine analogy because I've looked at over the years that's more like what I used God like. I would go up and, I'd see whatever was in the vending machine and I'd put my money in there. Heck, if I could get away with it, I'd like to get something out of there for nothing, but I know I at least got to put $1 in there. So I put $1 in the vending machine. And aligning my will with God's will looks like this. I can only choose from the things that are in that vending machine. I can want a Reese's peanut butter cup. That could be what my will is. But if there's not a Reese's peanut butter cup in that vending machine, it doesn't matter how much money or how much I wish or how much I pray. That wish for me is not going to be aligned with what is in front of me right now, what is available to me. I can get my arm stuck up in there if I try to reach up and get something jammed up. I can kick it. I can punch it. I can try to rock it and get what I want out of there. That's what I find a lot of times that I do with God. I'm trying to get my little way. But when I align my will with God's, it doesn't matter what's in the vending machine. Everything looks like a great selection. Hey, that was my angel talking to me right there. I like that. It means I'm done just about, so I'll let y'all off the hook here. But it's so hard to sum this up in an hour or 6 hours. You could give me 14 days, and I'd have a hard time summing up what steps 10 and 11 look like in my life. All I can say is if you're new, you've got under a year, get into the steps as quick as you can because they're going to be practiced for our lifetime. And that's what 10 and 11 do. They keep me cleared out. They keep me unblocked so that I can be of maximum service to the next person that is looking for the same solution that I was looking for. How do I live without alcohol and not come apart at the seams and absolutely enjoy life? I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to read one more thing, y'all. We are free to go anywhere and do anything. Dang it. I apologize, sort of. This part about where we can go anywhere. I've been to so many concerts, y'all. I've been to so many shows. I've played back in the bars again. My work requires me to be around alcohol. My wife also is normal and drinks occasionally. But I also go to these places and go to these events to see how I can be used. And we don't know when we're going to be used. This happened last night. There was a big nightclub that was in town 30 years ago that closed down. They had a big thing called the Metron Reunion last night at the biggest bar in town. Old bartenders were there tending bar. Bands from back in the day were playing. And I went. My wife and I went. And you know what? I didn't think about drinking one time, guys. If I thought about it at all, it was like, God, thank God I don't have to do this anymore. I had a blast. We had a great time. And I got home last night. And I got this in my Facebook messages because this is a guy that I've only known casually. He's a musician, a great local musician in town. And I've known him for over 20 years. And he just said, hey, Glenn, it was so nice to see you and Nancy Lee tonight. It's probably hard to go out and not know somebody everywhere you go. I would have loved to tell you that I am going into rehab for drinking right after the whatever gig. It is for the best. I was picking up dinner for the family where my wife and I told our son about this. It was tough. I actually don't know why I'm telling you this. I guess it is just because I know you are in some sort of recovery. I respect your privacy. Be well. That was at 11:58 last night after I got home from seeing him at this deal. I just said, brother, that is a huge step, and I know it's scary as hell. It's hard to imagine a life without booze and drugs. It was for me anyway, but now I can't imagine going back to it, even if I could. I'm here for you, brother. Please reach out to me anytime. And he called me this morning. And no, that's y'all, that is God. Clap for the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. For God, y'all. That's the power of God. I don't even know that's going on. Thank God I don't know that's happening. I would have probably tried to manipulate it in some sort of way. Let's go to treatment right now. I mean, I don't know what God's got in store for him. I just want to not spoil an opportunity to maybe be of use to this guy at some point down the line. That's all I got, y'all. I'll let you go. Thanks for having me.